All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
This is my favorite recorded audience. Nice to see everyone here. Albert, you are quite gratefully in your seat, ready to ride a herd over this mess. And it will be delicious today. Won't it, Albert? It's going to be a good show today, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like all Friday shows are good shows. So.
Albert, thank you.
See, that's what I wish for everyone, that kind of attitude about their lives and the projects ahead. Kim is here.
Kim, how are you?
Never know what I'll get from Kim. I'll get the supportive, everything's great disposition, or if I'm going to get a grim pushback on everything that I say. Yeah, you got to be careful.
What you're going to get from me is called honesty.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Well, how can I not love that? How can I not like that? That seems like a good plan. All right. So we're going to be honest today. All right. That is the directive is laid out. Look, we've got a lot to get to. We've swapped sides in the Ukraine war. We'll talk about that. We've also grabbed the post office now. And if I were you in the next few months, I would use the post office in every way I can, while it's still in any way affordable. Because once it's privatized, as I told you years ago it would be, if the Republicans had their way, it's a GOP precept that privatizing everything is going to be better than having the government do it. I mean, that's the general, how the government screws everything up. Yeah, well, actually, though, the government doesn't screw everything up. That is really a false narrative. I get it. Things get screwed up by government. It's a big organization, and we ask them to do a lot of stuff, and so some things are going to get screwed up. But that they screw everything up? No, that's just not true. You know who screws up everything and doesn't give an S about it? Private industry. Yeah, private industry toxifies your water supply. Private industry toxifies the soil. Private industry even kills people, and they don't care. They write a check. There is chapter and verse on this in every way, from chemical spills to your cable company. You tell me if they care about you. So all I'm saying is the privatization of the post office, and again, they haven't mentioned privatization yet. Right now, they're seizing control. Everything else they've seized control of is looking pretty grim, but we'll get more into that. But this is an executive order that will be signed to take the US Postal Service's governing board and show them the door. So there will be no more Postal Service governing board and even the appearance of independence.
Good day, sir.
Exactly. They'll be shown the door. The aim is to put the Postal Service under the control of the Trump administration's Commerce Department. And you know who runs the Commerce Department? He's a new guy. Maybe it'd be okay if you didn't know this new player on the field. His name is Howard Lutnick. He's a big, super big Trump supporter. Okay, that's how he got the job. And he used to run Cantor Fitzgerald, the huge firm. Very tragically, many lost in the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center. But in any case, he is a kind of riding herd over the trade negotiations, the tariffs and all that stuff. That's his world. So Howard Lutnick will now also take control of the Postal Service, in addition to his duties of running the Commerce Department and, as I say, these trade negotiations. Now, I didn't mean to get off on this thing, but I just mentioned the post office, and we were talking about the post office before, and we've spoken of it many times here, and so I thought I'd give it a quick mention. But there's a lot to do on the show today. Michael Shure in the second hour. We'll talk politics. We'll talk Ukraine war. We'll talk the long plan and CPAC. I will give you a lot of highlights from CPAC and Elon Musk in just a moment. Maud Day, are you kidding me? Maud Day with a $100 super chat on which she says, missed your accomplishment of the 100,000 subscribers to the show. Here's a hun for a hun thou. Lovies, she calls us. Not going to cry.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
100 does it.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
100 chokes me up.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
I'm not going to break down here. But I am going to say, Maud Day, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
The British thank you so much is the very best so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maud Day.
What's the next goal? 500,000? 200,000? What do you think?
You know, Kamish, you're good with this. To answer a question like this, I feel as though it's a little like asking the Super Bowl champions what's next. You know, it's a little early.
I'm going to Disneyland.
Can we not just enjoy the Super Bowl win? Do we have to go right to what's next? Are you guys, you think you can repeat? What do you think you can three-peat? Guys, we just got to 100,000 like 2 days ago.
Sorry, are you still basking in the light?
I'm not basking. But I'm not. You know, it was a big effort, and I'm just.
I saw somebody comment 1 million next, and I was like, wow, we got to get 100,000 10 more times, like 9 more times.
It took us 2 years to get to 100,000. So I'm just saying it's very challenging. It's not, and it is important because you know, the size of the audience matters in terms of revenue. The size of the audience matters in terms of the pride we have that, you know, and even story selection. You know, we try to give the audience that which they seem to be most interested in alongside those things that we feel they might have an interest in or maybe even should have an interest in. You know, like there are a lot of things that fall through the cracks where we go, you know, this isn't getting a lot of mainstream media coverage. Right. And we feel as though we were onto the story and we're going to keep with this story until it does get a little media oxygen. So
what about the plaque? We're going to hang the plaque.
Yes, the plaque. The plaque is coming.
Right?
I don't know. Is the plaque? There's there's also a protocol that you have to. I think the plaque comes automatically. I think there might be people in our audience who know about this stuff better than I do. I'm not really, as you know, super up on the stuff with YouTube. I mean, all I'm trying to do is not break anything. Like, I just want to come on, do the show, hope that people find it. I know that we got to put out shorts and stuff like that, which we've done. And I know that we've got to be smart about headlines and all that kind of thing. But beyond that, like, it's so easy to run afoul of YouTube. Like, if you, you know, I just don't want to screw it up with the wrong email address or, you know, it's so.
Yeah, it's hard.
And I've done it before. Like, I've screwed up before. So I just wish there was somebody else handling this. But the point is that I don't know how the plaque works. So I think they send it automatically. And I suppose you put it up here somewhere, right?
Right in front of the pillow. You'll have to get one of those little, you know, things to set it on.
Yeah, one of those thing setters. Yeah, and we do that, and then we
like a little easel, like a mini easel.
Yeah, like a mini easel. Yeah, and then there's another thing. There's some award also that comes. With but I have to apply for it, and I got halfway through the application and I thought, oh my God, I think I'm going to screw this up. So I stopped and I erased it all. So I don't even kind of know what I'm doing. I've given it to Courtney provisionally, maybe because she's better with that stuff. So we will see.
She's really organized and together. She's
unreal. Well, she's an executive, so she's agreed to help us, and she's amazing because you know, we're ripping readers a little bit, and we're kind of like being asked to do new stuff, and I get it, you know what I mean? So it's great to have her involved, and she's also, you know, very inexpensive. So, depressed Canadian is controlling the post office a play to manipulate mail-in ballots. Well, there's that too.
Just didn't even think of that.
Nor had I, and you're right. It is clearly a way to do that. I will say there is, I think, just because you've used the word manipulation, and by the way, let me just mention, because I mentioned Michael Shure with politics in the second hour, Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, will get us up to speed on things to watch, movies, streaming, all of that. still to come, and Friday Fabulous Florida, curated by Albert. I'll give you the CPAC highlights and some of the stuff that has happened at CPAC in just a moment. Hula Steph, thank you for this. Congratulations from Steph and Grady Cat.
Yeah.
What up, Hula? Yeah. Big shout out to Grady Cat.
Big shout out.
I have more drama with my cats, and it's kind of sad drama. You know, I have very old cats. 2 of them are very old. Actually, 3 of them are very old, but 2 of them seem to have old issues. The third doesn't have as many issues. And I had a thing with my big boy, Charlie, this morning, who pees all the time. Unfortunately, we have him generally peeing in designated areas where I can set out the pads, you know, like the pee pads that you would use for a dog. And he's pretty good about nailing the pee pads, but he does nail them with great frequency. Like he's clearly, and he's also, he's got a lot of trouble standing and walking. And I really feel for, he's, it's really hard, but he's not like so diminished that you would ever think about, you know, the unthinkable.
The time has come, right?
Yeah, but I would also say that it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking, and I spend a lot of time with them. I'll just lie back there with them, and while I'm reading articles and books and stuff, because they just want to be near me, you know, since we've been together for whatever it's been, you know, 16 years. So those of you who have older cats, dogs, pets of any kind, you know it's heartbreaking, you know. And the really heroic work, I'll just mention this because I saw actually something on social media today. The real heroic work is oftentimes done by volunteers in shelters who work with older dogs and cats. Dogs particularly, though. I think people sadly turn their older animals in. It's like to get, almost like a car. Like I want a newer model, or I want a puppy. Or almost like people, you know, those rich producers who dump the wife and then they get some 28-year-old to, you know, start, you know, it's a thing. And anyway, when it comes to these creatures, these are sentient animals. These are sentient creatures. They feel an attachment to you. You know it, right? They feel jealousy when you pay more attention to one animal than the other. And these are real feelings they have. I mean, we've given them label jealousy or whatever because it's an emotion then that is descriptive. But all I'm saying, they feel pain and fear and all these things, and I feel very connected to the animals and very responsible, you know. But it is a challenge at times. And the other thing I'll say, and then I will move on, is Charlie, who is my big boy. You know, he's the one who is the peer. He bosses me around like I'm his bitch. I am telling you what. He has no appreciation for what I'm describing. You know, no appreciation for the sacrifice. What? No appreciation for all the trouble I'm going through. No appreciation for at the end of the night, I'm already exhausted. And I still go back there and I spend time with them. Now, they can go anywhere in the house virtually, and they will not leave this one room now that they've gotten really old. They're scared. They're really frightened. It's a wild thing. But, man, he has an attitude on him. I'm telling you. Imagine the kid that you're raising, okay, and you sacrifice like crazy for this kid. You know, you don't go on vacation because you've got to pay for their school, and you save up money so they can go on some summer camp trip, and then they just tell you to F off, and they flip you the bird, and they're smack talking you all the time, you know. They get a tattoo on their neck that says, "I hate dad." I mean, that's the attitude that my cat has toward me. But I still love him. I still love him. So, and I don't know, maybe he doesn't have that attitude and I'm kind of, what is that, anthropomorphizing? I'm giving him some, you know, human emotions when he deserves a little more sympathy. But all right, let's get going.
The Mark Thompson Show.
They are having the CPAC meeting. This is where they can really let their hair down, the conservatives. But I don't even know if it's fair to call it conservatism anymore. It seems to be, I'd suggest an extremism. Yeah. I mean, where you're taking certain traditional conservative values. I mean, the notions of conservative ideologies have traditionally, over the last decades, included a disposition toward Russia that has been hostile. I mean, to call it adversarial is to be polite. I mean, that you view Russia as ruled by an authoritarian, human rights are taken away, And the reality is that life in Russia is grim compared to the freedoms and liberties that we are enjoying here in the USA. Has always been the kind of thinking that they have done. But that's changed now. I mean, now we are on Russia's side, and Ukraine is our bitch, who we have spent so much taxpayer money on that we want to exact from them that which we would normally exact from an adversary. Reparations, in a way. We want mineral rights to pay back the sacrifice financially that we have made as a nation. This is what Trump wants and has articulated he's wanted in these demands that have been forwarded to Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. And so you've also, in addition to calling the president of Ukraine a dictator, to calling him out for being unpopular, saying that he has 4% approval, when of course we know that he's got like 54% approval, and a higher approval than Donald Trump has. But more to the point, this is a traditional ally of America, even though not a formal NATO member. This was certainly a proxy war. And yet we find ourselves in an instant having flipped sides as a nation, and now, as I say, browbeating our ally. And that was just one of the things that's come up in the agenda that has been visited at CPAC, and it's against the Doge cleanup of government, the elimination of waste, fraud, and abuse, which, as we've said on the show, hasn't been done. What's been done is a reckless dismantling of major governmental institutions and departments, many of which were quite efficient already. If you're looking for inefficiencies, you don't go to the IRS and you don't go to USAID. And you, in fact, in going to the IRS, are hobbling one of the few institutions in Washington that generates immense revenue for you. So if you're looking to bring in money, they are more than bringing in their salaries. Spencer Jaffe, CPAC is too extreme, with a super chat. Thank you. Yeah, so anyway, to the point, we know that there's a fraud to a Doge. There's not only a fraud, but there's a danger. I mean, we've let these Dogians go into the government, and they have truly taken the data, the private data of Americans secured in government computers. Now, I think Americans, like most people on Earth, have hit the terms and conditions and agreement clauses in any number of apps to already surrender a lot of information, but that's the prerogative of Americans to give up. The government, there's a presumption of security that hasn't been honored. And Musk and his people have no clearance and no green light to do this. You didn't vote them in, and nobody in America voted them in. Now, I get it. Musk was very prominent in the Trump building empire that he was suggesting was going to come to Washington. But the notion that you would just begin firing people and decapitating entire agencies, that was certainly not part of it. There's absolutely a chaotic recklessness to what Musk is doing that is inexcusable. You could, if you wanted, have cleared Musk and his Muskian henchmen. You could have cleared them in some way that would suggest that they get formal clearance at the federal level. That is to say, background checks, confirmation processes, however you want to do it. That's not how it was done. Within hours of having been elected, you have this guy who is shown on stage here at CPAC with dark glasses and a dark hat and a black overcoat. I'm just describing it for people who are listening on the podcast, being presented with a chainsaw on stage. And then he revs up the chainsaw, holds it high because he is taking a chainsaw to government. Now, he would say he's taking a chainsaw to government waste, but that's not what's happening. As we've learned, he's fired and discharged from government critical people who are involved in critical aspects of government. The nuclear maintenance people are associated. When I say maintenance, I mean maintaining our nuclear arsenal in the ways that it has to be maintained. Maintenance people makes it sound like they're, people who are cleaning up around the nuke missiles. I mean, maintaining the structure around the nuclear weaponry that is so much a part of American military security. Those people were let go. I mean, how could you? It's indefensible.
And then they're like, "Whoops."
Yeah. Then they try.
Now we're trying to get them all back.
Reach them.
Aren't we also trying to get back the people that were dealing day to day with bird flu?
Well, we're trying to get back the people who are dealing. You need a scorecard just on this, like who you fired and trying to get back. People who are dealing day to day with bird flu, people who are charged with maintaining our nuclear arsenal, and now Forest Service people who were discharged as well, who now they're trying to pull back because they were they swinging the axe at the U.S. Forest Service. So that's only. Those are the headlines. I mean, there are others as well that they're trying to bring back into government. But remember, they came in so hot and wielding that chainsaw so recklessly that they stopped all this medical research in its tracks. I mean, even as Alzheimer's is this horrible scourge on the senior community and on families worldwide, but domestically, it is a crippling illness to deal with, to watch loved ones compromised by Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. And we all have an interest in a breakthrough in some kind of therapy, even modest therapy when it comes to Alzheimer's research. Well, a lot of that research, and apparently we're right on the verge of maybe potentially making some breakthroughs, it was stopped. It was stopped instantly, as was cancer research, as was virology research. It extended across the board at CDC, at NIH. It's outrageous. So somehow they're recasting this recklessness as, triumphant. That's why he goes to CPAC and he wields this chainsaw. I'm going to show you the CPAC.
In a big celebratory manner. And also, just as the family member of someone who is a government employee who is they're stressed out. They don't know what's going to happen next. They don't know if their livelihood is going to be preserved or not, if they're going to have the pension that they were promised or not. Their livelihoods thrown into chaos, and there's a lot of stress. To see him dancing around and celebrating with a chainsaw, it's cruel and demoralizing. It would be like if you got called in, when KGO went under and everyone got called in around the conference table and they said, okay, well, the station is going away and here's all your manila envelopes. If they then, brought in a band to march around and celebrate everyone's departure, it's really not nice.
Yeah. That's actually a great parallel. I would also suggest that a lot of their policies are deliberately cruel. I mean, Bannon has talked about this. I want to make it so these people don't want to come to work. Those are exactly the words that Bannon used. And that may be a direct quote. I watched a lot of the Bannon stuff. I'm talking about the Bannon stuff from his podcast. And he said, we're going to get rid of these people. We're getting rid of the administrative state. And again, waste, fraud, and abuse, we all agree it needs to go. But what's happening now is insanity. It's utter insanity. It's total recklessness. And the notion that a bunch of 26-year-olds are going to go in there and jack all of this secure data, they have it. And now Musk, and who the F is Musk? He gets into a spat with Donald Trump. He can take all that data and dump it anywhere. Or he can just, even if he doesn't get in a spat with Donald Trump, he can just sell it off in bits and pieces. I mean, there is no governor on Elon Musk. He has all the leverage.
So scary.
I don't think there will be a spat between Trump and Musk because they are very much in need of each other. Donald Trump is the more popular of the two. And so wrapped in this Trumpian shell, Musk can do all of his dirty work, which he is doing, and it's designed to give him more and more power. It's an extraordinary thing that they've done this in 30 days. This is a destruction on the level, I would suggest, we've never seen. And it's all been done in 30 days. And it's not done. It's not over. So, I wanted to show some CPAC stuff. Albert, give me the CPAC wrap package, if you would, please. This is what's going on.
This is The chainsaw for bureaucracy.
Oh, is this where you? I'm sorry. Yeah, Mark. Let me start where I know I can start. This is me micromanaging the video. All right. Sorry, Albert. I will shut up. All right, and you'll run the video from where you want to run it. I will not ask you to run it from any particular location, and you'll run it in 3, 2, 1, and.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
Elon Musk wielding a chainsaw in Washington, boasting about slashing the size of the federal government.
I am become meme.
The man in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, getting a hero's welcome at a conservative conference hours after the IRS began firing some 6,000 workers.
I'm proud of the work. I'm, sad to leave my colleagues.
This now former IRS worker says he's been fired even though he was brought in to streamline data and automation at the agency. Although officials insist none of the layoffs directly affects the processing of tax returns, there is concern that cuts could lead to delays, potentially affecting refunds.
You can only imagine with so many people being let go and so much kind of like information and potential being lost, people will probably expect some disturbances.
But Elon Musk suggesting Americans could get another check from the government.
The spoils of battle,
Pitching a $5,000 dividend for taxpayers funded by the cuts made by his Doge group.
Stop for a second, if you would, Albert. I want to make a point, 2 points really. One is this is an effective thing. There's a quality of entertainment on the level of WWE that's going on. These guys come in, he comes in with a chainsaw. You look at him, he's got the dark glasses, dark outfit, the hat, the black hat. There is a quality of theater that they're very good at. And you'll remember that the Biden administration, not theatrical, didn't really peacock about things. You had a guy and the president who actually looked fragile, weak. From a standpoint of just publicity, he was bad for the brand, These guys, they're all about representing the brand in a strong way, in a theatrical way, and that's why he comes in with a chainsaw. Now, point number 2. So what he's pointing out here, the $5,000 checks, this is the way to buy off the American public. I understand that people, when Sleepy Joe Biden, who were these people who were in MAGA land who used to refer to Joe Biden as Sleepy Joe Biden, when he was sending those checks out, the COVID relief checks, et cetera, they talked about how inflationary it was. They talked about the detriment, essentially, associated with these checks. When Donald Trump sent the checks out during his first term, he actually made sure, you'll remember, that his name was attached to all the checks. It actually held up the dispersal of those checks by several days because he wanted to make sure that the Trump name was attached. And that took several days to actually add another piece of paper, it was, with the checks that were sent out. He wanted his name on the checks. They couldn't do that at the Treasury. So they added this second piece of paper. Now let's cut to this. They want to put in $5,000 checks. They're talking about this. And it's a way to buy you off. It's a way to buy off the American public. And the remarkable thing is that this definitively inflationary move is being talked about within the Trump administration as though it won't affect inflation at all. It's absurd. How could you send $5,000 to every American? Again, this is, I don't know where you're getting this money, but he's claiming that he's found this money and this is the spoils of victory is what he's calling it. It's absurd. You don't have it. But if you do send it, it'll be wildly inflationary, along with the tariffs that'll be wildly inflationary and all the other half-baked economic schemes that Trump is going to sell. But this is a way to buy off the criticism that you might get from the American public. Back to it, Albert. Sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
And so it sounds like, that's something we're going to do.
He's also shaking off accusations that he's a Russian asset, following reports last year that he'd been in contact with Vladimir Putin.
People are like sometimes like to end this war. Say like, I'm a bought asset of Putin. Yeah. I'm like, he can't afford me.
It comes as the Trump administration appears to turn toward Russia while calling Ukrainian President Zelensky a dictator. And in a new move, the administration objected to language in a G7 document that refers to Russia as the aggressor in the Ukraine war, even some Republicans voicing concern at this apparent turn toward Putin.
This man is a cancer and the greatest threat to democracy in my lifetime. The strength of our alliances are on the line, and the future of democracy in the world is on the line if we do anything less than defeat Vladimir Putin.
Officials say Trump is frustrated with Zelensky because he rejected Trump's offer to settle war debts by handing over half the country's mineral resources to the U.S. Officials say Zelensky's team is working on a different offer regarding how to share those minerals.
That's what I was talking about when I said that. I mean, we're actually, exacting reparations, which is what you would do with a defeated foe. We're exacting those from our ally that we've been supporting for the last few years. It's insanity with these mineral rights. Now, you can put it in the insane column along with the fact that you are negotiating a peace agreement and one party that's involved. There are only two parties involved in this dispute, and one of the parties is not invited to the peace negotiations. It's absurd. If you, again, it's carving up Europe after World War II. It's the audacity is extraordinary. But we're not done at CPAC. At CPAC, I should say. CPAC visited, and they really let their hair down. This is we can really just let it ride. Steve Bannon visited CPAC, and he gives, and a lot of his stuff, and as I said, I've watched a bunch of it, a lot of his stuff is two things, I would say. One, it's really militaristic. It's almost like listening to a general speak to enlisted men before battle. He does a lot of that. He loves to sort of employ the verbiage and attitude of a commander, of speaking to the troops. And the second thing, and this is the thing that if you spend time around Bannon, meaning watch his stuff, he cloaks a lot of his stuff in historical reference and what can almost masquerade, frankly, as a kind of erudition. Like he seems as though he knows a lot.
Well, thank you for that.
And that can conceal really despotic and seriously populist, in a bad way, plans that he has for America and the world. Play us a little bit of, this is Bannon at CPAC.
The hardest, toughest days are ahead, folks, but you know what? Riyadh, Berlin, Beijing, Moscow, the city of London, right here. This is not beatable. You can't, the only way we lose is if we quit. The only way we don't have victory if we surrender. The only way that they win is we retreat. And we're not going to retreat. We're not going to surrender. We're not going to quit. Fight, fight, fight. Amen. God bless you. You are amazing.
Here comes a Nazi salute.
You've honored every patriot in this country, every patriot grade. You've honored them through your agency. This is all you.
Here comes a regular salute. And he did the one, but here, keep it going. There it is. There you go with the Nazi salute. Here comes another one. There it is. Yeah, he's fist in the air. Yeah, fight, 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 he's saying. I counted 3 Nazi salutes. And now they're yelling Trump, 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 Trump. That's what they're yelling in the hall as Bannon walks off. And so the gesture that alludes to this Nazi ideology was not unnoticed, even by those who the right in this country seems to be sidling up to in Europe, and Musk himself backing a lot of these far-right political parties in Germany and in France, and the leader of a far-right political party in France saying he is not going to address, as planned, the CPAC conference. This is after Steve Bannon appeared to give a Nazi salute to the forum yesterday.
Yeah.
Quote, I've been invited, we're showing it to you again so you can see it. I had been invited, there it is, to make a speech on the links. And again, this is just one of the, he did it 3 times. You can just let it roll and you'll be able to see it. I had been invited to make a speech on the links between the United States and France, as well as the recent electoral dynamic of patriot parties in Europe, said Jordan Bardella, the leader of France's national rally. Yesterday, while I was not present in the room, one of the speakers, out of provocation, allowed himself a gesture alluding to Nazi ideology, he says. I, therefore, took the immediate decision to cancel my speech that had been scheduled for this afternoon. Bannon says that his gesture was a wave and reacted to Bardella's cancellation by saying the French politician is, quote, unfit to lead France. So you go from being an invited speaker to being characterized as someone unfit to lead France. And Bannon says he's a little boy, not a man, and only men or women of strength can lead France. That's your update on CPAC, a place where awful things are hatched and applauded. Again, the conservatism of the past is nowhere in evidence. Really nowhere in evidence.
It's like people have forgotten.
To see this country flip to being so much in the bosom of Russia now is an extraordinary thing to see. And it happened like in 90 minutes. I mean, it was, they're just still clearing all of the red, white, and blue off the inaugural podium. And we're already crawling up Vladimir Putin's backside. And I would say more and more, given the complete surrender that Donald Trump has provided Vladimir Putin, I'd say that there's more going on here. American interests aren't well served by doing this. Now, I'll give you one thing that from a tech bro standpoint or an industrial kind of capitalist standpoint, you might see, well, I can see opportunity there. It's if Russia can be opened up to American markets. You know what I mean? If this is a new consumer base that can be exploited, it's being talked about that way. That's why I mentioned it. That's not that's not an idea original to me. I mean, they've spoken of this great potential marketplace for American goods, et cetera. I mean, there is that, I suppose. But apart from that, I mean, this is an authoritarian regime that backs other authoritarian regimes. It has been an adversary, an enemy of the West since Putin took power. They have backed terrorism. They are behind client states in the Middle East. Now, Syria was one of them. Syria has fallen. I really don't see how you draw the connective tissue between Putin and Trump unless there's some compromise or something. I don't get it otherwise. It's too big a pivot. It just doesn't make sense. Donald Trump loving his approval rating because he is not working with the actual approval rating. That is a great thing to do if you want to feel good about things.
You just make it up, Mark. You make up the approval rating you want, okay?
Self-delusion is a real thing.
I've never seen anything like it.
President Trump's honeymoon period in the polls seems to be over, but he claims he has a 71% approval rating. Saw another one of 69%. Trump was bragging at the Republican governor's dinner in Washington last night. None of the pollsters tracked by either Real Clear Politics or 538 show him with anything close to that. And while his poll numbers were largely positive when he first took office in the first few days, it's only taken him a month to trash those numbers. He has 6 of the last 10 polls showing him now underwater. Gallup this week finding him with a 45% approval rating compared to 51% who disapprove. CNN has him at 47% approval compared to 52 who disapprove. The Washington Post, 45. Reuters, 44. So when you're in Trump land, you don't pay any attention to that. Maybe that works for you. But that's certainly the hymn he's singing, and he is still quite combative. The other thing I would say that he has in Musk is a bro who likes to be the same petty, vengeful guy that Donald Trump is. Here's an example. What's happening with the International Space Station, Kim?
Oh, apparently, we don't want it anymore because, if anyone complains aboard the International Space Station or talks back, the whole project has to go.
What happened with the International Space Station was that one of the issues has been how to get the astronauts safely there and back. The Boeing, I forget what it was called, not important. I wanted to say Starlink. It's not called that. It's there's some name for it, but
Dreamliner.
Dreamliner. Thank you.
Yeah.
Or maybe Dreamliner's their plane. I don't know.
Yeah.
It malfunctioned. That was the thing that got them up there. There was a question as to whether it was, airworthy to get them back, and so they're waiting. And we all know the story. They were supposed to go up there for 10 days. They brought supplies, et cetera. And now they are there for months and months and months and months. Now, that was all, again, part of the plan. Not cool, not great, not good, but, again, not a surprise, and it's certainly not being done out of some punishment or forgetting them or anything.
Yeah.
So what was concocted by Donald Trump was that the Biden administration abandoned them up there, and Musk picked up on that, too. And now Musk is responding to the response from the space station saying, hey, we weren't stranded up here. I don't know where this stranded thing came from. I don't know, Biden didn't leave us up here and we didn't. We're fine. This was all part of what was baked into our mission. Well, Elon Musk is taking on the International Space Station on his social media platform. And again, Elon Musk tweets on his platform X. He posts there more than a 12-year-old girl. I mean, I can't believe the volume of stuff that he is both in charge of, managing, and then somehow there's time to spew all of these X posts. It's incredible. So he is now in a quarrel over the two NASA astronauts that have been in the space station for months. And yesterday, he called for the decommissioning of the International Space Station. It's been in orbit for over 2 decades. It's supposed to be up there until 2030. He says it served its purpose. The bipartisan world of NASA, again, these are scientists. They're not politically charged the way Washington has become. Washington always politically charged, but now it's hyper-political. The decommissioning of the space station has really brought NASA into this political warfare. And I'll remind you, Elon Musk is a major contractor for NASA. So you've got 2 American astronauts, the Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore. They got there last June, supposed to be a 10-day mission, as I said. And there is real question as to the future of the ISS because the most powerful man in America, who is Elon Musk, is talking about decommissioning the ISS. Andreas Morgensen, the Danish astronaut, who previously was the ISS commander until March of last year, called out Musk for his comments during an interview with Sean Hannity this week. That was the interview during which Musk said they were accelerating the return of the 2 astronauts and claimed that they were left there for political reasons, that somehow Biden had dumped them there for political reasons. What a lie, Morgensen wrote, suggesting that Musk was a hypocrite for complaining about a lack of honesty in the media and then launching this lie in the media. Hours later, Musk hit back, calling the Dane an idiot. And also he called him a slur for a intellectually disabled person. We don't like to use the word, the R word, Mm-hmm. And Musk
he called Musk called an astronaut the R word.
Yeah. exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this whole notion that the astronauts are stranded is infuriating. I can't imagine. They said, we don't feel abandoned, we don't feel stuck. There are plans put in place to return in March on a SpaceX vehicle. And of course, a SpaceX vehicle is owned by Musk. And that plan was already in place before Trump took office. That's the latest on the back and forth between Musk, Trump, and the astronauts. And as Kim has noted, I mean, it's heroic to go up there. It is, without question, a life and death kind of mission because it's such a fragile relationship you have with that world around you. You know, any number of things can go wrong and they can, you know, cost everybody on board their lives. And to get into a back and forth with them this way, I mean, calling it back and forth is being polite, you know. To sling S back and forth is just, you know.
I have a question as well. With the Musk was the one with SpaceX who was going to go up and bring the two astronauts back. He had made a deal with the Biden administration to do that, right?
Right. I just mentioned that. Yeah, the X people are going to, yeah.
Correct. Yes. So if he was so worried about the timing of it and he's in control of SpaceX, then isn't it Musk who would then have abandoned them up in space?
Yeah, well, don't try to do the math.
I mean, he could have sent a SpaceX capsule up 2 weeks later.
The thing about Musk and Trump both is that they really play a lot out in the media. They care a lot about how things are being played. They care a lot about pronouncements they make. They care a lot. You know, Trump is all about the theater of being president. He's kind of playing president. The executive orders he puts in place, some of them he cares about, maybe the DEI stuff, he has a thing about that, clearly. The trans thing, he has a thing about, but the, you know, getting rid of the subscriptions to all of the publications around the world. This is happening at all embassies and any American outposts around the world. Any publication that's not a right-wing publication, they've dropped. So Washington Post, New York Times, all this stuff, they've dropped those subscriptions. That might seem like a little thing, but like that really lands with Trump. It probably wasn't Trump's idea, but it lands with Trump. The rest of the stuff is all Project 2025 stuff, what you can do in the first 30 days. And so Trump sits there and he signs those executive orders. And there are these pronouncements and all the trappings of the presidency he really does enjoy. You know what's happening at Air Force One. He's now not happy with Air Force One, way behind schedule. He's now looking at buying a couple of other planes and outfitting them. And you see how Trump is playing the theater of being president. But the rest of the stuff comes from Project 2025. So they care about headlines. Now back to the astronauts. So when you get into a thing where they're grabbing a headline and they're talking about the fact that, well, the Biden administration left these people up there for political reasons, and they're playing that narrative, and then one of the people to whom they're referring actually says, not really. We always knew that we would be up here until March. We've already scheduled our return, and there was never any political aspect to this at all. We're fine. Now you've gotten in the way of what's so important to them, which is the media narrative that they ride herd over. And for that reason, Musk says, "Oh, really? Well, you're an R word. You're a threat to democracy. Whatever the hell he's kicking up." And he wants to. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to close down the whole program. I mean, this is really like having 11-year-olds run the government. You know, they changed the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. You know, they want a new plane. They're going to buy 2 new planes. There's an aspect of, of craziness. And they really embrace the mayhem. The chaos is part of it. And Bannon talks about this. We're bringing the chaos deliberately. So that's a little bit of what's going on. My God, these tweets are like middle school kids. Exactly.
Yeah.
Says D. Elliott. Yeah. There is a little bit of pushback now on the flip that's been made from Ukraine to Russia. So you're seeing a little bit of that among congressional leadership and in the Senate as well. But generally speaking, they have been cowed. And man, they greenlit the world for this guy. All of his confirmations, all of them are scary. Scott Rittenberg writes with a $10 super chat. Thank you for that. Let's get a GoFundMe and contract the European, Japanese, or Indian space agencies to go rescue our fellow Americans. Geez, it already feels like 4 years. Happy Friday. Let's hope there's a USA on Monday. Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Scott. You've been an OG with the show for so long and a supporter. Oh, yeah, thank you. Fort Knox will be next. Thank you, Nana Anna, for this, because I'll tell you, Nana Anna is right. He's going to Fort Knox to make sure that there is gold there. The gold reserves are... Now, that's something else an 11-year-old child would do. I mean, again, it's the 11-year-old child playbook. Now, to be fair to Trump, he's a genius. Apparently, America is way on the 11-year-old playbook. You know, they're on to smack talking, making stuff up. You know, I'm going to bring prices down on day one. I'm going to bring the Ukraine war to a halt. I'm going to go to Fort Knox, make sure the gold's there. I'm going to let everybody tour Project 51, or what is it, the Area 51, where all the UFOs are. I'm going to declassify these classified documents for so long, the ones that had to do with the JFK investigation, the MLK investigation. Some of this stuff lands, you know. It really resonates with people. Shiny objects for little Donnie, says SP is he. Yeah.
I mean, is it ever smart to let a scammer and a thief into the area where we keep the gold? Probably not. Can you see him? I visualize him just putting gold bars in his pockets. Maybe he's bringing the interior designer in there to, you know, get more gold leaf for the
for another Trump room. Yeah, for another bathroom. Yeah.
Maybe he wants a 14 karat gold, 18 karat gold toilet.
Again, I don't think that I don't think he's walking out of there with anything, but I think it is a distraction. This is really what is it? Kalohe SF says Fort Knox is another troll to scare us and piss people off. They are carnival barkers. That's right. They are carnival barkers. I think that that's exactly right. He's going there to radiate the supply like Goldfinger did. To Hogville. Yeah. Goldfinger. He can bring Bob Menendez along for the visit, says Guitarra. They're very well done.
Right? Like, there are people that shouldn't be allowed into Fort Knox. I don't know.
Yeah. The U.S. Marshals Service is deputizing some of Elon Musk's private security team. They're giving them certain rights and protections of federal law enforcement agents. This, as the Tesla and SpaceX CEO faces criticism over his work in the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency. The security detail can carry weapons on federal grounds if deputized. And finally, the Haitian residents who were so much a part of the derision and scorn of Trump conversations around immigration during the election. They're in Springfield, Ohio, you'll remember. There are about 60,000 of them, and they're critical to bringing that community back. They reinvigorated it economically, but to be fair, they were also a burden on a lot of city services as well. So it wasn't all positive, but now they are all losing the protective status that they had. You'll remember that Trump and J.D. Vance had introduced their eating dogs and cats. There had never been any evidence that there were any dogs or cats eaten. But the entire claim of dogs and cats was repeated in that really gross way during the debate with Kamala Harris. Anyway, Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, saying yesterday that she's going to end the temporary protected status for Haiti in August. That's a federal designation for immigrants from countries with dangerous conditions like natural disaster, armed conflict, and Haiti is certainly one of them.
So first to hell with the Venezuelans, now to hell with the Haitians?
Exactly. If you're following it, as Kim says, Venezuelans were first to lose this protected status, and now the Haitians. So the Biden administration had extended the status for Haiti to February of 2026, and this happened since the earthquake. The earthquake was in 2010. and there's gang violence and a lot of natural disasters of the sort. You know, it's like still a seismically active area, Haiti. And so these Haitian residents came here. And now Kristi Noem is taking away their protective status. That's the latest on what's happening with your Homeland Security Secretary.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right. We've done a lot. I've said a lot. I think it's time for a palate cleanser or two. You know, Albert, I don't know how the time gets away like this. How does it happen? I mean, I don't know why we start the show. We have a plan, and then the time gets away, Albert.
It does.
Why does that happen?
Albert, thank you.
Why does that happen, Albert?
I blame you.
Oh, yeah. And maybe it is my fault. Kim could be right. I'm just, I don't know. Well, I am drinking from my chit mug, by the way. This is the chit. Yeah.
I love it. Chit.
Oh, I love it. This is the Ocotillo Espresso. I made it and blended it. Actually, Courtney made the coffee this morning, which is extraordinary. I say it's extraordinary because usually I take control, and then, of course, I had to make a pot. But I thought I made the espresso, stovetop espresso. But I thought her coffee was actually a little bit better, and I do recommend it. And the only reason I'm telling you about this chit mug is this chit mug is available at getmarkmerch.com. The official logo of the show is on the front, and they're wonderful. They will enhance any kitchen experience. I'll take one more sip, and then I'll continue. Here we go.
Enter Mark at checkout for your 10% off.
Yes, that's right. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com is the coffee of this show, and it is delicious. I encourage you to get some and discover for yourself. They also have amazing teas. They have loose leaf teas. They have bag teas. And they do everything in a very personal way. Everything is hand roasted in the coffee world, and their teas are equally curated personally. We've talked to the Roastmaster General Cliffs. He's been amazing. So CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And when you check out, use our discount code MARKT, and you'll get 10% off anything. So if you order a bunch of tea, you order a bunch of coffee, 5-pound coffee, whatever. Sometimes there's a better deal if you order more coffee at once. I think I get the 2-pound bags. I drink a lot of coffee, though. But anyway, you must use the discount code to really get a break. 10% off if you'll use Mark T at checkout. That's the latest on Coachella Valley Coffee and the magic of the taste experience. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Albert, I guess I've got to do Florida here. Is that what's happening?
Yep.
Yes.
Albert, is there anything I need to know before I cascade head first into Florida? You know, I like to plan it out. I like to look at it. I don't like to go about it the way like this new administration is going about waste, and they call it efficiency and all the rest. So they don't really have a plan. They just send a bunch of kids in to, jack stuff up and fire people. That's not the way we do Friday Fabulous Florida, is it, Albert?
No, not as a show, but maybe just me. I try to be as efficient as possible, but
yeah,
maybe in a different way.
Yeah, your efficiencies are appreciated. And now, if you're new to the show, is this right? Dow is down 1,200 points already? Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that taking a second day of hits?
From when Biden left the White House, is down a total of 1,200 points. Unemployment is up, inflation is up, and the price of groceries and gas is up, all in 32 days. Well, Agolf Twitler, if you are indeed looking at facts, that's true. But why not just do what Musk and Trump are doing? Get high on your own supply, Just talk about how it's all sunshine and rainbows. That's what you have to do. And the Trumpian supporters seem committed to, as long as they're taking care of DEI, as long as they're taking care of some of these high-profile wedge issues, cultural issues, as long as those are being taken care of. I don't think they care about economic policy, foreign policy. We've got some great guests ahead in the days and weeks to come to comment on some of these areas that involve real policy of this administration. The other thing I would just say, it hasn't been mentioned here, and I mention it from time to time. We haven't mentioned it here yet today. But don't lose track of the transactional nature of the support that Donald Trump and his administration have had from the Christian right. They very much feel agency, feel a stake in this administration, and keep your eye on them because they have big plans for America, and they're powerful. And they have a couple of Supreme Court judges as well, at minimum, a couple. So we'll follow all of that in the months to come. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, it is time. We like to feature on Fridays in a brief segment as a palate cleanser to all that is politics, the weirdness, the bizarre, the quirky, the magic of Florida. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
You'll never believe where they've found many alligators. 35 different animal species. Armadillos, frogs, raccoons, and yes, many alligators. They found them in the stormwater sewer systems under Gainesville, Florida, everyone.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a busy little sewer system.
It's like a Disney ride through a reptilian paradise. Alan Ivory, a PhD student at University of Florida, spearheaded this study. And while the movement of rats throughout the underground systems is well studied, the pattern of other animals who's been using the tunnels as pathways to navigate the urban landscape, it's far less researched. The researchers said it's like something out of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh.
They carried out the study by using 39 motion-activated trail cameras attached to manhole covers on 33 stormwater drains. And over a 2-month period, they collected all kinds of data. And the American alligator was among 7 types of reptiles found in the storm sewage systems. It was the one species, I guess you would call it, that was most documented across the greatest number of sites, suggesting that they are everywhere.
Wow.
Yep. If you like alligators, Florida's got them above ground and in the sewer system. Mm-hmm. Meantime, on the other side of town, a different kind of research going on. A shirtless Florida man steals a patrol car and carjacks a woman in a chase.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Well, this is police dash body cam video that we're showing you now. It's a wild chase in South Florida. It was this guy is not a good guy. Attempted murder suspect, stole a deputy's cruiser. Then he pulled over and carjacked a driver. And finally crashed that car and was arrested. The officer says in the video, "He just stole my patrol car. He's running northbound. Lights are on. He tried to take my gun from my holster." And the dash cam video shows him driving erratically through a Largo neighborhood, then finally pulling over and pulled over this red SUV. He jacked that.
Was he kind of laying down in the vehicle? Weird.
Well, the person whose car he stole thought he was a cop, and he's driving with the lights on and all the rest, so he pulled over for him. And then
there's a reason that this place is fine.
It's not. He was going 100 miles an hour, the cop said. But the driver, Armando Lopez, was wanted for trying to kill his ex at her home earlier in the day. Not a good guy, as I say.
Not a good day for him either.
Not a good day for the cop, not a good day for him, not a good day for anybody. That's Florida. Meanwhile, Polk County A woman there is accused of attacking a man with a garden hoe after plans to hang out with her that they had fell through, and he had to cancel those plans. And some women just don't like to take that cancellation.
I'll show you
lying
cancel.
down. Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
This Polk County woman is.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
There she is, Melanie Davis. That's her booking photo. We like to rate the booking photos here. It's just a little thing we do.
Don't flake out on Melanie. You know, you flake on Melanie, she'll get you.
She has an attitude. Good for her. She likes standing up for herself.
She
Melanie,
looks pissed off even in the picture.
Yeah, she's not happy even in the picture. I actually think that she could be a lot of fun, and I'm going to give her a 7. And again, I'm not rating her looks per se. I'm rating just her attitude.
Yeah.
Because she's a very attractive lady. A garden hoe was in her hands, though. The two were planning to hang out earlier in the evening, and then she was unhappy that he canceled plans. She's 47 years old. She went to his home in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., yelling at him from the outside. And then the yelling wasn't enough, wasn't getting his attention. Investigators say that she climbed the fence to his property and pushed through his door before punching him.
Melanie.
That's when she allegedly grabbed a garden hoe and began hitting him with it, caused a serious laceration on his arm. He was taken to the hospital and treated. She was taken to the Polk County Jail.
What he's got going here is a situation.
Yeah, it's a situation. So there it is.
Oh,
we don't want to pick a favorite, but we have to. It's in the bylaws of the show. Again, I'll remind you, the study of Gainesville, Florida, revealing that there is an abundance of alligators in the sewer system. Along with other reptiles, they are clearly the dominant species. The shirtless Florida man who steals a patrol car, lights and siren 100 miles an hour, carjacks a woman in a wild chase until he's finally brought to justice. And the Polk County woman accused of attacking a man with a garden hoe after he had the unmitigated gall to cancel their plans to hang out. Again, Kim, what's your favorite, please?
I'm going to pick option 3, Melanie and the garden hoe for the win.
Melanie and the garden hoe for the win. Albert, what is leading in the poll online?
In the poll, everybody loves the sewer gators. I love the sewer gators. It's warming up finally. They're dormant during the wintertime. This is our first gator story, and I feel like in a couple months. So
yes, the winter again, they are, as Albert has noted, hibernating pretty much. So you don't. But now it's a mating season, and they're alive in the sewer system. And Wes says for $5 super chat, Florida, standing by.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to. It's tough to vote against the alligators. It's so Florida, the alligators, you know. But I'm going to round out the field by going for the shirtless Florida man who steals a patrol car. Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm sorry. It's kind of what I'm thinking. That's Friday, Fabulous Florida.
This has been Friday, Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
Sure, in the green room, we'll get to him momentarily, talk some politics and the fact that, hey, we changed sides overnight in the Ukraine-Russia thing. It's wild. We'll talk to Michael about that as well. All of that as we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Right on, everybody. You know, he's one of my favorites. He really is. He's always been a favorite, by the way. You know, a lot of people have become my favorites since this show began. But he was on my old podcast. He's been a longtime friend. I really adore Michael Shure. I want you to know it. I want to say it publicly. Because, damn it, you never know when it's your last chance to make a pronouncement like that. Thank you. This is a man who has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. You've seen him outside Trump rallies. You've seen him covering Kamala Harris. You saw him covering COVID. He has really a wealth of journalistic knowledge as well as political knowledge that is, I think, without comparison. How about it for Michael Shure, everybody?
Hey, thanks,
Yeah.
Mark. Thanks for
And
the.
you, we'll get to the whole hockey thing. Okay, we'll get to it. I promise. I'll leave a little time.
It's a good day to get to it. I mean, something cool happened. So.
Yeah. So I want to start with what's happening with America's disposition toward Russia. This is, I'll get to Musk and I'll get to Trump, but let's go to Musk and Trump and America as it now pertains to a conflict that we were really, I think we were waging a proxy war through Ukraine with Russia. And immediately upon taking the oath, Donald Trump has changed our disposition toward this entire conflict. Can you speak to what's going on now? It's happening quickly.
Yeah, I mean, implementing so many of the different changes that he's put in, including our position toward Putin and Russia, and to saying that Russia wasn't the instigator of the war, and to having peace talks without Ukraine, without Zelensky, and then going on his social media and saying about Zelensky that he's a dictator. I think this is such a departure from U.S. foreign policy, and that Republicans in Congress and Republicans in his atmosphere are not speaking up about that is, it's hard to say what the headline is in this administration on a day-to-day basis. But I think after a month, knowing and seeing this is really the biggest departure from American foreign policy and what has been normal in such a long time. And it's frightening. But I will say that while Republicans aren't reacting in the way that one would hope, maybe not expect, European nations are. And I think that is going to matter in the end more than anything else in terms of Ukraine and the stability of Ukraine and how this war is going to resolve.
But let me be clear, that's not going to chasten America and the new American leadership at all. But you think that but it can't be, it's not an afterthought how the rest of the European nations are reacting, is your point.
Exactly. I mean, and it shouldn't matter what changes America. I mean, this person, an election is going to change America. An epiphany is going to change America. But this is urgent and emergent. And this is a devastating development. And he's going to want credit for stopping a war. And the credit that he's going to want is going to come with the guarantees about NATO that Putin wants, that Europe doesn't necessarily want, but it also puts at risk Ukraine. It's a geographical war as well. So changing a map, which he seems, this president seems very eager to do in many different ways, from Canada to Greenland to Panama to the Gulf of Mexico, and now to allowing others to do it in Europe. We didn't expect this. There's a lot that we could have imagined. This isn't really one of those things. And to have peace talks without one of the people, I mean, there's no peace talk that I can think of, and maybe some of your smarter viewers than I will come up with them. But peace talks that didn't involve one of the people in the conflict. It's just astonishing.
Exactly. I made the point in the first hour that it's extraordinary. It's absurd. It's utterly absurd. And then that we are exacting some sort of, you'd almost call it reparations.
Right.
Wanting mineral rights to a bunch of, that's what you, as a victor, might try to exact from a defeated nation in a conflict, in a military conflict. I mean, there's chapter and verse on that in history. But the notion that you could extract it from an ally and having given the ally nothing in return, sort of saying, well, we were supporting you, so we want these mineral rights. But by the way, we've now surrendered on your behalf to the foe you were up against over the last few years. There's an insanity to that, isn't there?
Yeah, there is an insanity to it, and also what it proves too, and what is reassuring is that while his words matter here because he's the president of the United States and he has both houses of Congress, and we defer to the presidency in many ways in this country. We hadn't anticipated perhaps enough this kind of president, but or this kind of an electorate that seems unaffected by by what the president has done. If Donald Trump did what Richard Nixon did, it would be a nothing story. It wouldn't pass muster. But we've changed the way we pay attention to politics and what we care about, what matters, and the tribalism affects that. And obviously that's a hypothetical, but I believe that I'm right there. But we're also just one nation, and we see that just because Trump says and does something doesn't mean it's going to happen. It doesn't mean Panama is going to acquiesce. It doesn't mean that you're going to see Hamas. They defied what Donald Trump's threats were, that the Danish are going to give up and sell Greenland, that the Mexicans are going to be okay with renaming a huge body of water. And so he could say all he wants and get a lot of that done here. But the world is a different stage, and Donald Trump's impact on the world is not going to be as easy. And, a peace without one of the partners in that, or one of the affected countries in that, can't be a lasting or a legitimate peace. And Europeans know that, and the rest of the world knows it. And so does the UN, where he conveniently doesn't have an ambassador now.
This is interesting just on this point, and then we will move on to domestic policy. But Randy says Ukraine should join the EU and give all the mineral rights to the EU and take their chances on whatever the deal is that they can make with Russia without the U.S. I mean, that's a truly rogue notion. But increasingly, to the broader point, and then please comment on his thought, but to the broader point, the Europeans are envisioning a future, an immediate future, without the Americans.
Yeah. And by the way, so too are the Chinese. They are, with all these tariffs that are going into Asia, I mean, it was written about today, they're affected by it. But what are they doing? They're going to their other Asian trading partners, and they're finding ways to offset the losses by having to pay tariffs on these exports, where it's only going to hurt the United States and China to a lesser. I mean, it'll hurt China because you can't make up all of the trade with the United States in Asia and these other countries, but certainly it makes it more palatable. And so it's not. I think this is, in the big picture, showing the weakness of America, because other countries are going to figure out how they can get by without the United States. And the United States walks around with this sort of hubris of thinking that no, we are this, and everybody knows that. Yeah, we are a powerful nation, and we help out a lot of other countries. A lot of other countries rely on us for both militarily, for dollars, for social medicine and things like that. But I think they're going to find, when it comes to the economy, that other countries are going to figure out how to do it. When one store closes, you figure out where you buy your other things.
That's exactly right. And we talked about this for some time. I was talking about the fact that if Trump put these tariffs in place, that even our biggest customers will find other places to, and they have already put these other places to find that which they normally purchase from America. So you're really hurting your own people, the very people who put you in office, farmers, et cetera. And the Latin America has lit up, and as you say, China has really already found other purveyors of the things that they typically purchase. It's a true. It's a self-own that Trump is doing.
Right. It is a cell phone, and it's a party owned too. And at a certain point, the party is going to have to understand that. I mean, there's this belief, and I understand why they have it, that nothing they do matters, because the support is not going to go away. The people that support Donald Trump, a very good portion of them don't care one bit about policy, don't know anything about policy, are there to either they worship the celebrity, they like the way he speaks, or they feel like owning the libs is the most important thing, and being able to be facilitated to say the things they do in the way they do is something that only happens with Trump. But there are going to be people that, when they see what's happening to the country because of these things, from unemployment to weak federal programs to government that is not able to provide for the needs, from whether it be veterans to the sick to people who want school lunches to all of even the IRS, which is important, even though nobody loves the IRS. When they see the breakdown of that, they're going to be the people that matter, and the people that care about policy, and the people that see these things that are not just blinded by the guy. That's going to hurt. I mean, that's going to hurt at the end.
Yeah, there will be at some point the government plumbing is going to back up, and now this is part of a broader issue that I'd love to visit with you, kind of on an ongoing basis, which is, at what point does it not matter to them? Have they changed America so substantially? Have they changed government so substantially? Have they so dismantled government to the point that you can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again? I don't know. Speak to that, please.
They think. I mean, to what's understandable, they understandably believe that whatever they do doesn't matter to their popularity, because it hasn't before. The extremes to which they're going right now are going to have actual effects, right? If you thought that the January 6ers were not Donald Trump's fault, for example, and you supported Trump and he didn't incite that, and they were right, and that was a stolen election, if you believe all of that, it's fine. You're allowed to, and then those people get sprung from jail the day he gets in, and his supporters are happy about it. But when prices go really high, when you need, when you're a veteran who needs medical care or benefit questions answered, when you are waiting for a tax return that isn't coming, when practical things happen to you that matter every day, then at least a portion of those people are going to become frustrated, because there's no Joe Biden to blame it on anymore. There's no Barack Obama. There's no Chuck Schumer. I mean, they have the entirety of the government, and they have a very, very active president who surrounds himself with people who are loyal and will do what he says. I mean, even I was watching the confirmation hearings of Lori Chavez de Remer, who's going to be the Secretary of Labor. She's co-sponsored the PRO Act in Congress, which is a sort of a union-friendly act in Congress. She's a Republican. She lost her seat in November, and now she's going to be the Secretary of Labor. She was saying things like, whatever I believed before, I was in Congress. Now I believe the president. Whatever the president says is right, and I'm going to go along with that to an extent. Now, cabinet members do say that from time to time, but these are people are going to start realizing the effects of this, and not everybody's just going to be adherent to this person when they see that their home is crumbling.
You watching the NLRB nominees confirmation hearing is the most Michael Shure thing ever. Very, very impressive, sir.
It's the Labor Secretary.
Labor
NLRB
Secretary,
is moot now because they don't have a quorum.
Yeah, that's under NLRB. I'm sorry, that is, I misspoke. The NLRB has been taken over by Donald Trump. Really, it's been
in a way. He hired one person, which means they don't have a quorum, so nothing can happen there.
Right. And again, that's a regulatory agency. Just because we mentioned NLRB, that's involves in regulating Wall Street and a lot of regulatory stuff. So if you're looking to get rid of regulation, it's a great thing to get rid of, or at least decapitate NLRB. Right. Now, I wanted to let me just play this, Albert. Can you play for Michael Shure the reckoning that you're talking about among the electorate, among the constituents? Was at least a bit in evidence at Congressman Rich McCormick's meetup with his constituents. Albert, play a little bit of the
Hey, he's a
pushback.
Republican, Rich McCormick.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, Republican Rich McCormick. So he's a all in with the Trump crew. Here we go.
You can go and yell all you want. I can't understand 10 people, let alone 100 people.
Not the president. And you are doing us a disservice to set that down and not stand up for us. And
You are doing a disservice by not standing up for us. And now he's getting shouted down.
So we're going to have a town hall.
He says, "You don't think I'm going to stand up for you?" And then he got boos from the crowd in response to that. And then he said, nobody can hear when everybody's yelling. And they chanted shame and yelled, "We're pissed." And this is a guy who's gotten the blow, begin to insulate themselves from their constituents because there's going to be a lot of this blowback. This is in Georgia, by the way. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I think this is in Roswell, Georgia, and in Roswell, Georgia, it's Georgia, as you know, in rural parts of Georgia, it's a pretty red part of the country. Now, Roswell is near-ish Atlanta, but not right in Atlanta. It's it's the kind of place where you probably have some red and some blue voters, but by the same token, that you have this this idea that finally constituents on this week off from Congress are going to their congressional town halls and letting them know how they feel, and that is a Republican. That is a Republican north of Atlanta. That is a Republican who is getting an earful. That's got to be happening in other places, or it will. And again, we don't know who infiltrated that town hall. We don't know what the real sentiments are. But when these federal jobs are lost, and when these places like the CDC, which is probably an hour or so south of Roswell, Georgia, are having their jobs cut and their leadership undermined, when these are centerpieces of the economy in a state and in an area, that's when this stuff starts to matter. That's when this dictatorship idea starts taking hold, and people say, whoa, we can't have this. And that's, I think this is a tip of the iceberg. If in fact it's, this is anecdotal. This is one congressman in one meeting. We don't know who those people are, but we do know that Congress is hearing an earful.
I'd also say that the virality of this video will help other constituents in other districts, Republican districts. It'll embolden them, and I think they'll realize, hey, we're not the only ones who are disenchanted. As the disenchantment grows, we're only a month into this thing, and you've got. Go ahead.
Right. One of the advantages of Elon Musk for Donald Trump is that a lot of the anger is going toward Elon Musk and not Donald Trump, and everybody always says, oh, they're going to have a divorce and it's not going to work out. I'm skeptical of that. I'm not entirely certain that this isn't going to work out, because he is a foil for Donald Trump, in that when people are upset about the administration, they're upset also about Elon Musk, not about Donald Trump entirely. And I think that works politically. I don't recall a president having that. Unless, if you look back at maybe George W. Bush, people were upset with the people. They sort of underestimated George W. Bush, and they were able to pick on the other people in his administration in ways that minimized the president. But this is very different. I may be wrong, but it's a theory that he's going to stick around, and that's part of the reason.
I actually love that theory, and it hadn't occurred to me. Well, I talked about the fact that he's going to stay around. I was mentioning this in the first hour because I think there is too much that Musk has on Trump from a leverage standpoint. He really is able to single-handedly, implicitly threaten congresspeople and senators with whom he needs some participation and buy-in on any number of things that they want to do. He can primary somebody with a stroke of the pen by just dumping money into so many races, the same way that Peter Thiel handpicked J.D. Vance and, brought him a Senate seat. Anyway, that was my thinking. But I like your theory, which plays to an entirely different kind of reputational aspect to this, which is he is my blocking back. He is going to take all of the abuse for being chaotic, a mess, firing people he shouldn't, having to rehire. And I say, God, I don't know what Elon's doing. We're trying to get a leash on him. Sometimes he can come in a little heavy, but he's a really smart guy. And you're the president. You can just continue to play the theater of the presidency. I love that take, Michael. Really interesting.
Yeah, but it also, in talking about that, Musk is dangerous on his own, which is an important thing to remember. He's not like some goon that is taking the heat. He's somebody who has, like you just said, a lot of power to exact change on the body politic.
Well, the other thing I would just say, because you're talking about Musk's power, and I think it's very smart to remember what he's doing. I mean, he's been given unprecedented, we say unprecedented. This is unprecedented access on a level we have never seen before in this country, where someone is just plucked from society, and just because he's immensely wealthy, he's gotten a place at the table.
Correct.
He supercharged the Trump candidacy, and now, I mean, he doesn't have a place at the table. He has brought in his hench people to go through government and completely turn it on its side. It's unbelievable. Again, it's unprecedented, and the data that they've mined already from Treasury and IRS. And they are being allowed to do this by a judge who is reluctant to stop this bleeding right now with a temporary restraining order. She wants to wait weeks until they actually bring a court case. They can jack so much data, even in the first hours. And as you correctly point out, Musk has a relationship with European nations, with Russia. He has an international profile. His Starlink is used internationally. His SpaceX is used internationally. So the idea somehow that this guy can be running amok is one thing domestically, but it's another thing when you consider the immense power that Elon Musk has internationally.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So,
it's laid bare.
As you see Marco Rubio and many who sort of achieved a wider, broader support politically through the confirmation. If you look at the vote, somebody like Rubio is viewed as a more normal, mainstream political figure. Are they in generally short supply when it comes to this administration? It seems that way to me.
Yeah, I think that they are. I mean, there's some that are going to get confirmed with greater numbers, and then there are the ones that were tight, and there aren't very many left. Rubio, the Senate, he was in the Senate. They voted 99-0 to confirm him, and so I think those are just the natural tendencies, and we can get upset about it if we want those natural tendencies, but I think there's so much more to get upset about right now that Marco Rubio becoming Secretary of State. And when you look at him, I mean, Marco Rubio is doing the president's bidding, and he was on foreign services, but I don't know what his kind of bona fides are for dealing with the kind of things he's dealing with. In a way, most times when the American emissary goes somewhere, they are greeted because they're there with a portfolio. I don't know that Rubio has the same type of portfolio because of the type of president Trump has, and there's also a reluctance to engage the United States from different leaders around the country. So that's a big part of it.
I must wrap up with you, but I want to, prior to doing so, recognize something that you've introduced to this show, which is the 48 seconds of sports. I, in this case, would, I guess, ask you about this event last night. I watched it. It was a hockey game between the Canadians and the Americans. It was. You can tell me who was playing. I guess it was it seemed like an all-stars is what they kept talking about. These are sort of dream teams on both sides.
It was, they call it, best on best, the best players in the world. The Czechs and the Russians weren't there, and they are among some of the best players in the world. It was Finland, Sweden, the United States, and Canada. I'm sure Albert wants to chime in if he's still around, but it was extraordinary to see. Whenever you see the best at anybody play against the best, but there was more to it because of the political tensions in the background, if you can believe it, between the United States and Canada. It became more of a thing. Bill Guerin, the general manager of the U.S. team, inviting Trump, saying that Trump, that we're all Americans, we all want to beat Canada, sort of bringing the politics into it. But it was a thrilling game. The first game was in the first games were in Montreal and then in Boston. Last night was the final of the tournament between the United States and Canada. It went into overtime, and the best player in the world, Connor McDavid, won it in overtime. And there were a lot of Americans uncharacteristically pulling for the Canadian team. There were MAGA hats on some of the fans sitting behind the American or the Canadian bench. I think the politics couldn't stay out of it, and also some of the players on the Canadian team are just compelling. It lived up to everything. The players ended up caring about it. It was not like a regular all-star game. The politics were in the background, but the passion was there, and I think it was good for the game of hockey, which I really love. And so hopefully it'll bring a few more people in. I think that's probably 48 seconds.
Well, Albert, thank you for putting up all those pictures and stills from last night's contest. That was quite good. I got.
What's that?
Albert, thank you.
I was just giving Albert a hard time as you talked about the hockey.
48 seconds for a couple photos seems much.
Yeah. Okay. So Albert declined to participate.
Well, he didn't even want to put up any photos.
He didn't want to put. I was just saying it was sarcastically because he didn't put up any pictures from last night. But
Albert, thank you.
I did feel oddly drawn to it. It was kind of fun to watch, and I'm not a big hockey guy. But you kind of do get into it. And man, those hockey broadcasters, they are good. I mean, they are really good. I'm a broadcaster. I love listening to play-by-play guys and different sports and listening to different ways in which different sports demand a different kind of play-by-play and different kind of analysis. And they are good. Who is that guy? Sean McDonough, is that his name?
Yeah. Hockey announcers are excellent. I mean, sports announcers are excellent. I just think that, a lot of people who know that I'm a huge hockey fan who can't understand why I'm a huge hockey fan. Some of them who Mark, a lot of them were talking about what an unbelievable event that was. Look at that. Now, of course, Albert throws up a fight.
Yeah, now I've shamed Albert into putting up some stills. But McDavid's clutch, says depressed Canadian with a $10 super chat.
Connor McDavid, if you don't watch hockey, just watch some of his highlights on YouTube at some point. Anyone who is the best at something in the world is worth watching, whatever it is. And Connor McDavid is, in fact, the best hockey player in the world. And he scored the game-winning goal in overtime. It was a goal for the ages, and it was a great timeout. A year from tomorrow is the Olympic gold medal game, and these two teams will probably be playing each other then as well. So, tune in.
Luis says with a $5 super chat, talks without Ukraine are like an MT meetup without Michael Shure. Unacceptable. Also, can Trump declare U.S. winners of last night's game by executive order? I love that take.
I love that take.
Absolutely. Stop the steal of the hockey game, right?
That's excellent. Canada won 3-2, by the way, because I don't know if I said that even, but McDavid scored in overtime. They won.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you. Michael Shure, everybody.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right on, Michael. Right on.
Do you feel it? It's the Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
I'm excited, Albert. I'm excited, Kim. I'm excited. Assembled friends, thank you for being here. Full spectrum corruption is what Long Gone Sam says with a $5 super chat. It does appear that I've not heard it referred to that way, and I kind of like that reference. Long Gone Sam with the full spectrum corruption mention. It does appear that that's what we're in store for. Billy Joe Lara Sr., Joe's Junk Removal with a $5 super sticker. Thank you for that. Thank you for supporting the show. Big Joe Lara Sr.
Big shout out.
Trump seeking better ways, says Luis, to deal with bird flu rather than the standard of destroying all the birds from infected flocks. I'm sure it'll be totally safe. Well, he could do what he did with COVID, which is deny it. It's going to go away on its own with the warm weather. Kobe Bryant will be on the DCU Heroes Garden, says Spencer Jaffe with a $5 super chat. Nice. I'm a huge Laker fan. R.I.P. Kobe. I don't know anything about that. Albert is the guy who watches the Kobe Bryant memorials. Stan Pollock, CPA, my favorite CPA. Kim, I heard the show after hours yesterday, and I'm glad your son and you are okay.
Thank you, Stan. Thank
Those who missed it.
Mm-hmm.
Kim had a brush with the end. She let her son go into the ferocious ocean. As a parent, some might have an issue with that, but she knew that he was acquainted with. They go to this place all the time. And the unforgiving waters and waves of that ocean. Nature doesn't know anyone, situation. Nature is nature. Am I right, Kim?
Nature's in charge, that's for sure.
And nature took charge of that situation, not wanting to harm Jacob, little sweet Jacob, but that wave came up and knocked him off his feet. And then, as he tried to climb back out of the surf, the second wave came and it pulled him further down.
Mm-hmm.
And Kim, witnessing this and still not wanting to get wet, she had a second there.
No.
She's going, should I go rescue him? I don't know. I think he's okay.
Kim, how are you?
Changed the story. This is not how it happened.
Oh, is that not what happened? Okay.
No.
Kim rushed into the waves. Am I right,
you.
Kim?
Yes.
And at great personal peril, she pulled that child out of the surf, lifted him above her head, and brought him to safety. Am I right, Kim? Isn't that what happened?
Sure, Mark. Yes.
That's the way the movie will be played out. Anyway, Stan Pollock, CPA, heard of your plight and threw in a $10 super chat to tell you he was thinking of you.
Thank you, Stan, for the words and for supporting the Mark Thompson Show.
And a big shout out again to Maud Day with a $100 super chat in recognition of our 100,000 subscribers on this channel. Started very small. We still, I think, are very small in other ways, but we appreciate this milestone and appreciate that you recognize the milestone. We're a completely crowd-funded, crowd-supported show, so we wouldn't exist without you. And a hun for a hun. A hun for a hun thou, lovies, she says, and I appreciate that, Maud Day. Albert, I need your expertise here. Albert, who works tirelessly on this show, endures the slings from the host, making fun of him. I do need your perspective, sir. I have Kim's news, which I do want to get in. I don't like to delay. As you know, I'm very much into... wait a minute. I do like to delay. Yes, I like to delay, but I like to delay with content, with like good content. Kim is that content. Can I go to her news and then have Michael Snyder join after Kim's news? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, Kim. Maybe your 5 best stories, Kim, or three
Albert,
to 5.
thank you.
I'll let you choose.
You can even go 7.
This is brutal.
Snyder is so good with us delaying. He doesn't mind.
This is a classic Mark Thompson time waster.
Yeah, he is. He's okay with it. So I think he could use some news also. So, Kim's news. Smash the like button if you would. It helps us in the YouTube universe when you smash the like.
it with your iron rod.
Smash it like a boss, baby. Smash it like a boss. Kim's news, and then we'll get into the Culture Blaster. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. President Trump says he has had it with watching Ukraine President Zelensky try to negotiate with Russia. In an interview with Brian Kilmeade on Fox News Radio this morning, Trump said Zelensky has been at the meeting for 3 years and nothing has been done. Trump began criticizing Zelensky this week, calling him a dictator without elections. During the interview with Kilmeade, Trump also said Russian President Putin doesn't have to make a deal because if he wanted, he'd get the whole country.
Well, I mean, there hasn't been 3 years of negotiation that Zelensky's been at the table for. Okay, so that just is wrong. And number two, he's trying to take the whole country. Putin is in the process of trying to take the whole country. How's that going? It's not going great. Okay, now I understand you can say, well, Putin's winning the war of attrition. You may handicap it if you're Trump as Putin is the winner. But the reality is far more complicated. And it is not clear at all that if this conflict were to continue with the existing support structure that is there, and you might view it as a waste of money, whatever, but those monies have supported the Ukrainians in their war effort, and they've taken Russian territory and beaten back a lot of what has happened with Russian troops and their incursion into Ukraine. So all I would say is, I mean, of course, that's a completely phony narrative that Trump is giving, but it does directly reflect where he is on that, and that sadly is on Putin's side.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is conducting mass firings imminently. An anonymous source telling The Hill the original list of workers to be fired consisted of new employees, but since then, other workers were put back on the chopping block. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick denying this in his confirmation hearing that he would try to take down or privatize NOAA as Commerce Secretary. Associates of Elon Musk's Department of the Government Efficiency were reportedly at the NOAA facilities earlier this month.
I've done a lot of work with NOAA. I've known them for years. I was a weather forecaster for some time. And when you get into meteorology and you get into data and you get into all the work that NOAA does, and believe me, that's just a fraction of what they do. I don't think I have to tell this audience how the scientists at NOAA are critical to evaluations of so many different areas of what's going on this planet. It is a crime that you would make wholesale changes there unless you have actual evidence and data regarding efficiency, and they don't, because they've only been in town for an hour, and they are just dismissing scores of government employees who are critical to holding up these agencies. It's an outrage. Again, it's not an outrage to get rid of waste, fraud, and inefficiencies, but you don't do that this way. You just don't. And there's an absurdity to what they're doing, and there's a cruelty to what they're doing, but most of all, there's a danger to what they're doing.
Several prominent federal buildings in the Bay Area could soon be on the market. The Trump administration looking to sell the Nancy Pelosi Federal Building on 7th Street and the century-old building at 50 United Nations Plaza. The White House selling the buildings will save money, they say, and the administration can then lease office space for federal workers. The critics of Trump say closing the buildings makes no sense, and the move feels like a matter of vengeance. As mentioned earlier, stocks getting hammered for a second day. Dow Jones been down over 700 points at times, and the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 down more than 1% today as well. Luigi Mangione appearing in state court in New York this afternoon. He, of course, the 26-year-old accused of killing United Health CEO Brian Thompson late last year. He is pleading not guilty to murder, and supporters have donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to his defense. A Republican congressman is under investigation for allegedly assaulting someone. The D.C. Metropolitan Police Department says it was Florida lawmaker Corey Mills who allegedly attacked a 27-year-old woman at a penthouse in a luxury apartment building on Wednesday. He is denying that. It's a group of Republicans calling on the ATF to roll back a number of Biden-era gun rules. Senator John Cornyn of Texas says one of them is the restriction on so-called ghost guns, which are the kits that can be built at home. He says the ATF should safeguard the Second Amendment, not trample on the rights of gun owners. Meanwhile, 3 people are dead after a shooting outside a Louisville DMV branch this afternoon. Police say it happened around noon. The shooter was last seen fleeing the scene there. There is a plot of land in Pacific Palisades that just sold for $1.2 million. It had a home on it, no longer. Now it just has debris on it. The real estate listing calls the property a blank canvas, saying it offers a rare opportunity to create your dream property.
That's the most real estate agent thing you could possibly think.
Right?
You don't understand. From this tragedy, you've gained a blank canvas from which you can build your dream house.
A couple from North Hollywood is facing charges.
You can still see the tears here on the on the front stoop that still survived the fire.
Pieces
Those
of
are
history.
tears.
A couple from North Hollywood facing charges on suspicion of going on a 2-week-long armed robbery spree across Los Angeles and Orange counties. Federal prosecutors say 36-year-old Antonio Lamar Bland and 49-year-old Abigail Lucky, not so lucky, robbed 12 stores between January 29th and February 14th of 2024 when they were arrested in Downey, California. Prosecutors say the couple also took a quick break in between robberies to get married in Las Vegas. So that's fun. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is what did they steal?
The robberies took place at 7-Eleven stores and donut shops and a smoke shop as well.
Yeah, they stole, I think, like cash registers. That was the wild thing. I believe that's what they took, which is just, I think, a bad caper now. Like, I would just, all of you aspiring criminals, don't go for the, sadly, that, the smash and grab where you grab the cash register, you're going to get maybe a couple $100 out of that. No, it's just not, it's not a cashless society, but it's a cash-thin society now. So I'd suggest most cash registers really just don't have much money in them. So I just think it's a bad plan, bad caper. And so no wonder they had to take down 12. I mean, 12 is probably not even $2,000. So, and that they punctuated it with their little matrimonial tryst. Good for them.
Yeah.
And good for the cops for catching them.
And specifically for Michael Snyder, The Monkey, off to a scary good start at the box office. This horror film made $1.9 million from Thursday previews yesterday. It's expected to pull in between 12 and 14 million in its weekend debut. Captain America: Brave New World projected to take first place at the box office this weekend with 30 million in its second weekend in theaters. And this report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore, and I think we have a special video.
Oh, we do.
Mark Thompson, Kim Albert, and the Mark Thompson listeners, the month of February, we're selling futures. Futures means you get to taste wine right from the barrel. Hasn't been bottled yet. If you like what you taste, you can put in a pre-order and get a substantial discount, and you have something to look forward to later in the year when this summer when they're released. So we're doing the 2024, the new, hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson's Pinot Grigio? And our estate, which is estate grown here. And then right there, that's our Tempranillo port. So we're coming out with our first ever estate grown Tempranillo port.
Sounds
so
good.
Stop by the tasting room if you can, if you live local, to taste these delicious wines, and then you'll have something to look forward to when they're released in the summertime. I do call people in my Darth Vader voice, which I'm not going to do very good justice right now because I lost my voice the other night, went to a concert. Anyways, that's probably a little bit of an overshare, but we hope to see you guys out here. We love Mark Thompson, Kim, Albert, the whole crew, and we love our Mark Thompson listeners. And don't forget about that discount. So you got to do the little phrase, which you guys all know, smash it with your iron rod. My voice is shot. Anyways, thanks for all your support, you guys. We'll see you out here at Tenuta.
All
Let me know if
right.
I can ship any wines to you.
Yeah, Tenuta. You gotta love it. Love that rich. How about
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Yeah, that's the phrase that gets you all the discounts. And
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Oh yeah, that is the Pinot Grigio. It's called Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson? And there's also a why are you yelling red wine, which is quite extraordinary too. In fact, that's our own proprietary blend.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah, check that out
Rich
as
at
well.
tenutavineyard.com. You can email him or you can call him at 925-699-4576.
Love our Rich. He is a cool dude. Love Rich and Nancy both, but he is kind of the front of the house guy.
That's right.
There. Yeah.
I'm
good
Kim.
stuff.
It's the Mark Thompson Show.
Girl, you just rude.
The Mark Thompson Show.
What?
Who's Mark Thompson?
Feels great.
I love it when you're angry.
When they raided Mar-a-Lago, God didn't like that.
Seriously, what the
All right, everyone, it is time. You have asked for it, and we will deliver it. Something to chase down the toxicity of the politics, the rancor, the anger, the recrimination, the disgust, everything you feel about today's political world and environment. It's hard on the mind. We need an escape. That escape is provided here every Friday by this man. He knows music. He knows movies. He comes here as he does every week. He comes and goes on a rainbow. How about it for Michael Snyder, everyone? The Culture Blaster.
Hey, greetings, salutations, Mark. It wouldn't be a Culture Blast on the MTS if it wasn't after hours in overtime. We've already plunged forward into, we're looking at hour 3. I know we are, and I'll try to keep it brief because, you know, that's my way. I am so excited about the show reaching 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I know you're looking forward to getting the commemorative plaque, Mark. On the other hand, I was just at the dentist to get my teeth cleaned earlier in the week, and the hygienist spent a half hour removing my plaque.
Oh, I get it. Plaque. Yeah, sure.
You're
Don't
getting
ding
the
that.
good plaque.
Oh, God.
I got rid of the bad plaque. I'm happy about that. Speaking of healthcare, how about that bird flu, huh? Oh, Lord. This bird flew up to San Francisco as opposed to being in Los Angeles, and it's always really nice to be back at my place in San Francisco, seeing friends, hitting favorite eateries and night spots. But I have to tell you that the streets of the city now appear to be jammed with Waymos, and that makes me way more uneasy compared to the first experimental wave of the driverless taxis. I actually saw it. They are crowding the streets. It's nuts. I saw one Waymo cut off another, and as the first Waymo sped up, its roof sensor gave the second one the finger. I didn't know they were capable of doing that. But honestly, if you're on one street corner, you will see 5 Waymos in, the span of 30 seconds.
I like the humans driving. I know the Waymos are generally safe. I like Alexi, who is a fan of the show, who supports the show. He is in San Jose. If I could have just one driver, it might be Alexi. But I would also say the one thing Waymo doesn't do, just quite seriously, is that they don't drop you off just drop me off here, or just drop me off over at the corner, or just drop me, they need these very specific pickup and drop off locations that are not always super convenient. That's the one downside to Waymo. I mean, there may be more downsides, but I'm saying that's one of them that will hit you pretty much on every ride.
I really think the biggest detriment to taking a Waymo is no cool conversation with the driver. You can't chit-chat back and forth. You can't get a little local color. Either you've got it or you don't.
Good point. Speaking of chit-chat, Let's chit-chat our way to the first review, Michael. Go for it.
Okay. Let's do this. We'll do this. Director and screenwriter Osgood Perkins blew many a mind last year with the trippy horror movie Longlegs, which featured a truly, or maybe that should be typically, unhinged performance by Nicolas Cage as the monster of the title. And now Perkins is back with an adaptation of a Stephen King story, The Monkey. And it's a violent and grisly and sometimes humorous affair that shows Perkins' flair for the unexpected, the chilling, and the nutty in the horror genre. So, taking a couple liberties with King's story, Perkins' script gives us twin brothers who have been in conflict since childhood. One brother has constantly bullied the other, and meanwhile, their absent father has left a hole in their lives. In their youth, while rooting through dad's mementos, they find a creepy-looking wind-up toy monkey that plays a little toy drum. Unfortunately, as often happens, this toy monkey is cursed. If you wind it up and let it run, bad things happen shortly after the monkey hits the final beat on its drum. In other words, that final beat could mean someone's final breath. So, of course, havoc is wrought, and in response, the brothers team up to try and destroy the toy monkey. They think it's gone. We in the audience know better. Years later, the twins are grown up and they're still alienated from one another, but they're brought together, like it or not, when the toy monkey somehow returns and people start to die. And of course, the toy monkey is impossible to destroy. And some of the most creative and hilarious horror movie deaths are the result of this simulated simian and his drumstick of doom. Theo James, quite good as both brothers. Plus, Tatiana Maslany, the Emmy-winning star of Orphan Black and She-Hulk, and a cast member in the revival of Perry Mason, does her usual awesome job here playing the twins' troubled mother. Whoa, and straight from TV's Severance, Adam Scott is a treat as their wayward father. You even get Elijah Wood turning up in a small role. The monkey is reminiscent of the classic tale, The Monkey's Paw, which was clearly an influence, although King and now Perkins bring their own twists to the story. As horror movies go, The Monkey hits all the right beats.
I get it.
Scary, quirky, funny. The Monkey is in theaters.
It did very well, according to Kim. I wanted to also mention and acknowledge Lee Kopp, who gave us a $100 super chat donation to the show, Michael, during your segment. I would like to still acknowledge this is extraordinary. And he says, couldn't let the week end without celebrating your milestone of 100,000 subscribers. You are our emotional support team, Lee and Eileen. You've been here since the beginning. Since KGO, you are OGs, and I'm deeply appreciative for the $100 donation to the show. Thank you.
And
Michael,
frankly,
yeah.
I'm delighted at the break from my reviews because I needed a little time to catch my breath.
Good. Well, The Monkey in theaters did well, and Michael liked it. Now on to the next offering.
Cleaner is a decent thriller that stars English actress Daisy Ridley. She's best known as Rey, the Jedi Knight in the last 3 Star Wars movies. But she's a serious actress with range, as she showed in the drama The Marsh King's Daughter, Ophelia. She was in Murder on the Orient Express, and she was in a movie called Sometimes I Think About Dying that kind of fell through the cracks but was really good. And here she plays a woman who grew up in a dysfunctional family situation and is now caretaker to her autistic brother. To pay their bills, she works at a particularly perilous job. She's a window cleaner hanging off the side of a skyscraper in the heart of London. So this tower serves as the headquarters of an energy company that has had no qualms about destroying the environment, although their publicity people have painted a glowing picture of the company's consideration for the planet and its inhabitants. Determined to reveal the truth of the company's misdeeds, a group of activists sneak into a gala at the building and take hundreds of hostages to get their message out, all while Ridley's character, Joey, is working 50 stories up on the outside of the building. Meanwhile,
I love that premise. I can't wait to...
There's a rogue member of the activists, and he intends to do more than simply shine a light on the company's corruption. He's ready to kill any and all who are in the building. Some of the people in this environmental group just want to bring attention to the company and their destructive nature. He just wants to kill people, I think. So things get really personal with Joey because apparently it was take your autistic brother to work day, and he's in the building as well.
Oh.
Anyway, it turns out that our window cleaner has a certain set of skills, and she's going to do whatever she has to do to save her brother and everyone else in the building, even the piggy executives of the energy company. This turns the film into Die Hard with a wiper. You know, it's just
I love it.
She's really having a bit of a time getting inside the building, let alone avoiding these crazy activists and this one murderous leader. So Simon Utley's script may be derivative. It is, you know, in many ways Die Hard, but I had so much fun watching Cleaner, which also, by the way, features Clive Owen and his gravitas in a significant role. So Ridley has this English Rose look. So she might be kind of an unlikely action hero, but she pulls it off here as well as she did in the Star Wars movies. Director Martin Campbell, who shot GoldenEye, Pierce Brosnan's best turn as Bond, is at the helm here and keeps the movie charging forward at a breakneck pace. I don't know if Cleaner will, you know, clean up at the box office, but it will definitely play well on streaming for lovers of the over-the-top action genre. It is currently in select theaters.
And what is her name again? Daisy Ridley?
Yeah, Daisy Ridley. Get to know Daisy. Yeah. She is talented, and she can kind of do it all.
Love it. I'm interested in that one. Okay, what's next?
Okay, Old Guy. I mean, I blanched at the title as the years rack up here. Old Guy is a middling to mediocre action comedy directed by Simon West, whose filmography.
How old is the old guy? 50? I mean, give me the bad news.
60s, yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's Hollywood old. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, I'll get to the guy himself. But this is directed by Simon West, and he is the director of that crazy 1997 Nick Cage thriller, Con Air, that Angelina Jolie Lara Croft movie, and Jason Statham in 2011's The Mechanic. All pretty good, but he's also done a few duds, like an Expendables movie. Clearly, action is Simon West's thing, but this one doesn't quite hit the mark, despite an interesting bit of casting. Largely set in the criminal underworld of Belfast, Ireland, this movie is about an aging hitman played by Christoph Waltz, who is, you know, that terrific German actor. He's played villains, he's played weirdos. He was Ernst Stavro Blofeld in the James Bond movie Spectre, facing off against Daniel Craig. And here he is, you know, embracing the years. And unfortunately, they're kind of phasing him out from his particular corner of the mob. And they have him on board to train a young hitman played by Cooper Hoffman. And Cooper Hoffman is, you know, kind of doughy. He doesn't look too imposing as a hitman, but clearly that hides his own set of skills. And they're also teamed up with a woman who runs kind of a brothel. She's played by Lucy Liu, and they all end up together going to Belfast, where a hit has been laid out. And of course, there's all this double crossing going on, and they find themselves caught between two warring factions in Belfast. And yeah, they eventually learn to work together. Spoiler alert. It just didn't hit the spot for me. It wasn't particularly funny as a comedy, and the action beats were expected. And I just didn't find myself invested in any of the characters. For those who don't know, Cooper Hoffman is the son of the late Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he brings some of his dad's thespian skills to bear here, and also that kind of whimsy that Hoffman, the elder, would bring to roles. It just didn't work for me. I wish it had been better. I always wish they had been better, right? This particular movie is in fact streaming now. If you want to watch it, it's in some theaters. And, you know, if you're going to stream something or seek out an action movie this week, it would be cleaner. And again, I think The Monkey is probably a little better than that. Let's do some quickies, really short.
One second for me. 1 second. Kim, are you on this? Because I can't monitor the chat and talk to Michael. So apparently there's some controversy in the chat, and I've been sending you messages about it. I don't know if you got it, but I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I don't mean to chuckle. It might be ugly. But anyway, if you could watch that, Kim, I'd appreciate it. Go ahead, Michael. Thank you.
Maybe people disagree with me on my opinion, but, you know.
No,
That's
it's got nothing to do with you, I don't think. I think it's...
Thank goodness.
Go ahead.
Okay, Miller's in Marriage is the latest, and I haven't seen much from this guy in a while. The actor, screenwriter, and director Edward Burns, and he came to some measure of fame with the brothers McMullen and She's the One and Sidewalks of New York and Newlyweds. This is okay. It's not great. In this movie, Miller's in Marriage, 3 middle-aged couples, all of which feature at least one partner who's part of the Miller family, have to deal with their relationships coming apart, coming together. You know, some are looking for a renewal of love and attraction in their relationships. Some are dealing with ex-lovers undermining the even groovy and happy way we all want to have a relationship. And the actors that are in here kind of elevate what is pretty perfunctory in my book. And the actors include Burns himself, Juliana Margulies, Gretchen Mol, Minnie Driver, Morena Baccarin, and Benjamin Bratt, and Campbell Scott. And all of them bring their A game to the movie, and it's not terrible, but it just gets a little soapy and, you know, episodic, and, you know, the relationships kind of break apart and come together, and you soon begin to realize that there are sisters involved. And, you know, all I can tell you is that when it was done, I was like, yeah, okay. You know, what happened to the Edward Burns of Sidewalks of New York? Well, you know, maybe like the people in this movie, he got older. But I will tell you that if you liked his earlier work, you may want to check this out. Miller's in Marriage is in theaters and available for streaming on demand right now, if it sounds like your cup of tea.
But it sounds like it's missable, is what you were saying.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about it. Some good performances here, you know, but I just found it a little twee, as the British would put it.
Yeah.
Let's wrap things up here with Ex-Husbands, another multi-character ensemble situation about dysfunctional families and familial relationships and loss of love, family dysfunction, generational conflict, and the march of time are all among the elements that comprise Ex-Husbands, which was written and directed by Noah Pritzker, and it stars, to its credit, Griffin Dunne. You may remember him from Scorsese's After Hours. He was in An American Werewolf in London, and here he plays a man in the middle of a midlife crisis. His wife has left him. His father, played by Richard Benjamin, by the way, is succumbing to dementia. The wife is played by Rosanna Arquette. And his youngest son is coming out while his eldest son is having a bachelor's weekend in Tulum before marrying his girlfriend. But at the bachelor's weekend, all hell breaks loose when, you know, secrets are revealed and, you know, the raw emotions come into play, and the resentment that the sons have for the father comes into play. You know, it's kind of what you'd expect. And I still thought it was smart, and it was sensitive, and it was well written. A better film, I thought, than Marriage, Mullins in whatever that other movie was called. I'm so over it. Miller's in Marriage. There you go. I knew it was some kind of tongue twister. Yeah, so I thought Ex-Husbands was a little better than that. And it is also on release in select theaters, and it won't be available for streaming until March 25th. So, you know, if you are interested in it and don't want to go to the theater.
I mean, I will say this, it seems like a really great cast. And even it seems like, you know, you could build quite I don't know, an interesting dynamic with that cast doing almost anything that is at all substantive. You could have a good time.
That's fair, but it's mostly on Griffin Dunne's shoulders. We don't see much of Richard Benjamin and Rosanna Arquette. And when you think about cast elevating material, that's what happens in a large part of Millers in Marriage. You do enjoy watching those people interact and work and ply their craft. But actually, of the two films, Ex-Husband struck me as the better one. Let's move on quickly to some video options that we could recommend, both of which were delightful so far. I watched episode 1 of the new season of Reacher, which is about a man mountain. Oh my God, a man mountain of a former military policeman who is sort of like Johnny Crime Seed. He goes from town to town, solving murders and bringing down villains. And he's played by the prodigiously buff Alan Richson. And, the guy is, you look like you don't mess with him on any in any opportunity you have to encounter the guy. Watch yourself, because he can snap you in two. Anyway, in this latest edition of the series, which of course is based on a well-loved bunch of crime novels, books, Reacher he's in Maine, the state of Maine, in a town, and he apparently wants to save a kid from being kidnapped, and the kid is the son of what appears to be a major figure in the drug trade. And this is what triggers the action in Reacher. And things are not necessarily what they seem as they first play out. And, oddly enough, Anthony Michael Hall, you might have seen him in the red carpet segment of the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary. He was briefly a cast member. He plays this kind of businessman / drug lord, the big bad in Reacher so far, and I enjoyed it. You can see it on Amazon Prime. The first season was great. The second season, not quite as good. This looks primed to be a good one. And we'll just wrap up finally with a mention of Zero Day. Zero Day is on Netflix, and I believe it's the first TV series to star Robert De Niro. And in Zero Day, he plays an ex-president, kind of Biden-esque. He seems to be having some problems with mental acuity, and he decided to not run for a second term. Boy, this sounds so much like Joe Biden. And a big crisis erupts, and he's brought in by the current president, who is, in fact, a woman of color. Boy, we wish that's what happened here in the real world, but no, that isn't what went down. There are terrific actors here. I'm really excited about this. As a matter of fact, Lizzie Kaplan plays De Niro's character's daughter. Jesse Plemons is his advisor. Angela Bassett plays the current president, and Joan Allen plays the wife of this particular ex-president. I was caught up in the first episode. I haven't had time to get to number 2, but it's available on Netflix.
Wow. Zero Day. He kind of likes it. Zero Day. Yeah. Robert De Niro, Jesse Plemons. How do you miss with that cast? Angela Bassett, Matthew Modine.
Oh,
Eddie
yeah,
De
he's in
Niro.
it too.
Film was a great film. It's not even. It's a series, right? Or is it just a movie?
No, it's a 6-episode miniseries.
Yeah,
like
that's
I
what
said,
I'm saying, Maud.
it's
It's a series. If you like De Niro, you can drink him in for 6 episodes, and that's on Netflix.
I think it's the first time he's ever done television in this regard.
Yeah, I mean, is it television? I don't know what it is. I don't know, Michael, but you're right. Like if it's not in the theater, I guess it is television. He likes Reacher being back, and he recommends you check it out. I like Reacher also, but I haven't seen it. Michael has, and he likes this next iteration, the new season. Ex-Husbands is the black comedy from Noah Pritzker, Griffin Dunn, Richard Benjamin, Rosanna Arquette. He said it's good. It's okay, is what I got from you, Michael, on that.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, that's about right. It's okay. I wasn't blown away by it, but I was engaged. It's a smart piece of writing. It's ably directed and well acted. It just didn't, blow my.
Millers in
mind.
Marriage was the other offering that Michael looked at with another very impressive cast. Tale of three middle-aged married couples that were put together, and they're talking about marriage and fidelity and success and failure and, finding that next thing that they're going to do with their lives. Miller's in Marriage, he thought was, again, okay, not going to win any awards particularly.
All
Maybe
three
let down
couples,
a little.
by the way, the central couples are all facing their marriages falling apart in the process, in the realization that maybe things are not going to be as they were. It's so many talented people involved in it, but
Old Guy is the Simon West-directed offering. Simon West gave you Con Air, Lara Croft, Expendables. In this case, he gives you a story about an aging hitman, Christoph Waltz. Michael felt with this cast, this premise, Old Guy should have been better, and it wasn't. He was disappointed. Cleaner is the story about the window cleaner who's there cleaning the windows, forced to clean high-rises to support her family. It's a story of economic need.
Why are you yelling?
To the job itself, but then what happens in the building that she's working on, that's the real movie. To expose the truth of what's behind the company that's inside that building, a bunch of environmentalists take over. Well, one of them's crazy. One of them is part of the hostage taking, but wants to actually off people instead of just making the point about what this evil company is doing. This one person wants to start killing the hostages.
Why are you yelling?
And Cleaner is the British film that Michael Snyder liked. The Culture Blaster liked Cleaner. And finally, The Monkey. A monkey toy is found in the father's belongings of this family. Sifting through their father's stuff, they find that this monkey, when he starts drumming, if they wind him up, bad stuff happens. And when he reaches that final beat of the drum,
why are you yelling?
Really bad stuff can happen. Michael Snyder liked it. The Monkey. It's in theaters now.
Yeah. Hey, it's The Monkey. I'm telling you, man, of all the movies, it's probably the best of them this weekend.
Michael, you're great. Thank you for hanging out late with us. You can find Michael on the Voice SF, thevoicesf.com. Check it out any old time.
TheVoiceSF.org, and my current column is all about The Gorge and Companion, two of my favorite films of the new year.
TheVoiceSF.org has got some great stuff, and if you like Michael speaking, you'll love him writing. TheVoiceSF.org. Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Bye-bye, Michael.
So long, and go Warriors.
Go Warriors indeed. Michael Snyder, big Giants, Warriors. He likes the
Mark Thompson Show.
49ers. He's a big supporter. Now, I am drawn to controversy like a moth to flame. And it is with that I want to know what the hell happened in the chat while I was talking to Michael Snyder. Something happened, and I want all the gory details.
Why are you yelling?
All right.
Well, near as I can figure, there's a guy in the chat who is being misogynistic, mean-spirited, and nasty. I read a few comments.
How did Donald Trump get into our chat? Am I right, everybody? That's unbelievable. Wow.
And so I read a few comments, but there was a multitude of people saying he needs to go. So I made him go, and he keeps coming back. He's
wait a minute.
The system.
Did you see prima facie evidence that he should have been expelled, or did you just respond to the mob that wanted him out?
Mark. A little of each.
Oh, wow. I am surprised by this, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
This is
these are the people that I trust. If they say he's got to go, he's got to go.
Oh, you deputized people I didn't even know about this in the chat to call out others? Wow.
Yeah.
It's very.
If I see someone that's here every day that is trustworthy, that then I'm going to trust that what they're having to say is real. And I scrolled back a little bit, but the more time I spent scrolling, the more offensive comments, were kept coming.
Well,
So
give me an example of an offensive comment, and I'll tell you whether the person really should have
he
been
called
expelled.
someone a malignant narcissist. So there was name calling going on.
Yeah, malignant narcissist, though. All right. I don't know.
Whatever.
So I saw a little bit of it, and that's why I asked you to take care of it.
Sure.
But the controversy, and I saw that he made a gross perverted comment at me earlier this week, then berated me when I called him out on it, says Heather Kennedy, then attacked people who stood up for me.
Yeah.
I see.
He's making this an unpleasant place, which is unacceptable, and he has to go.
All right. Well, I
But the
am
sad
not.
part is,
I don't want to
somehow
argue with you. You
found a
you
way
seem.
to thwart the system, and he keeps coming back. And the more
Yeah.
I delete him, the more he comes back. And
Well, how
I
does
can't
he-
figure out how that happens. It's like, how many times do you have to head off the snake? If you're not wanted somewhere,
what is
then
it?
I've never seen
anything like it.
Well, I'm now. I don't know. I don't know how you come back once you've been. But they okay. Let me see. CC Ryder. I trust her. Hang on a second. The Mark Thompson Show, I saw his comments, and they were vile, rude, misogynist, and bullying. Wow, that is that's a bad trio.
There's some people in here. I see their names come through. Heather and Cece and Trevor, like they're here all the time. If they say it's bad, it's bad. It's got
Okay,
it's bad.
okay. But I do like to actually see it, whatever it is.
Sure.
But I understand what you're saying, and because I saw a couple of comments from him, and I didn't think they were bad, so that's why I was struck by the fact that he was being called out. So. But anyway, because we don't mind, sort of angry discourse or even people who disagree. I kind of like them. But I'll tell you, and I know we're way late, but I'll tell you that I almost yellow carded somebody who's a regular
Oh, really?
this week. Yep.
Oh.
Yep. You weren't here. It's hard for me to kind of watch it, but I did during David K. Johnston and MAGA Mars, who I think is fine. MAGA Mars is kind of he's like the MAGA guy in your family kind of guy. So I never really thought MAGA Mars is that, but he made a really, I thought, kind of rude comment, and I felt it was borderline insulting David. And like, again, I always say, you want to insult me, go for it. But if you want to insult my guests, I got a problem with you.
Yep.
And again, you can substantively take on my guests any way you want, but don't just insult them.
Right.
And I almost yellow carded him, but I kind of let it go, and I'm glad I did. But it's, the discourse is going to become more fractious and sharper, I think, as we, get into the MAGA's control of America, So
Hey, we've got 100,000 subscribers now, Mark. We're gonna have some riffraff coming in through.
Yeah, exactly. But Maud says this: tolerance, people, you whiny holier-than-thou clan, drive people away.
No.
It's not good for the Mark Thompson Show. Stop this. Let's get the total up to 500,000.
I don't know if that's Maud or if that's someone commandeering Maud.
Oh, well, this is Maud today.
Yeah.
She gave us $100.
See, she's nice.
Well, you're saying, but you're saying this isn't her?
I think that might be out of character.
You're not.
Oh.
I like the money donating Maud, not the Maud who's telling me that maybe these people are being a little too whiny.
I don't know if that's the real Maud. I don't know. I have questions.
My cat had the same symptoms, said somebody. AI Maud, you think? My cat had the same symptoms. He was diabetic. Yeah, I think the older animals do have diabetes issues. I think we got to most everybody today that we could. I was number 9,438 in the original Mark OG body count. I appreciate. Thank you, Richard Delameter. I appreciate everybody who has been here. And we did acknowledge Lee Kopp. Couldn't let the week end without celebrating your milestone, 100,000 subscribers. You are our emotional support team, Lee and Eileen. They are OGs of the show. With us from KGO, as so many people were. We came out of a radio station, and it's great to have them on board. Yes, we are late today. Much later than normal. I'm very sorry about that, but there's a lot of information we had to get in. The After Party Live is still scheduled to go over down on the After Party Live station.
We'll do it live.
Yes.
I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yes. Is it tonight when you do your Getting Drunk with Nikki show, or was that
last night?
Last night, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thursdays at 5 p.m.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, everyone. And now the great Shadow Stevens to take us out, please.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
What a week.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
We are out of time. Until Monday. Bye-bye.